Alright guys, so moving on to our next story. By the way, same day, nothing has changed. Do not worry about the different camera angles. And if you're listening to this in the audio format, doesn't matter to you. Nothing has changed for you, most likely. Although, Tristan's audio quality may have changed because all of us are having technical difficulties. Which, by the way, that might be written on our tombstones, Tristan. Technical difficulties. So,
yeah.
I mean, maybe.
It'll be you with technical difficulties, and it'll be me with, well, that didn't go according to plan.
Yeah. Please try again later. So.
Please try again later in between us.
So. We're moving on to more Doctor Who news. By the way, we should note, we had some fun last time when we talked about Doctor Who in the last story, or in the last video clip. And the fun that we had was, as I mentioned, just a few minutes ago for some of you guys, we found out mid-podcast that the story was updated. So we had to update ourselves. We were going to start it from the beginning, but we thought, no, it's much funnier to just have this bold, brash take and then halfway through to be like, ah, shit. So, this time, however, we have everything that we have as of this recording. So things might change. Maybe if I can, I'll do an update video, maybe with or without Tristan if necessary. But as of right now, I have everything in front of me. Just want to make that known. Tristan and I have all of the info in front of us as we're talking about this. So nothing new is going to crop up as of this recording. Again, once it gets to your eyes or to your ears, maybe things will have changed. This is a rumor, specifically a rumor that Jodie Whittaker, the newest Doctor, and Chris Chibnall, the newest head writer / showrunner, are rumored to leave in 2019. Tristan, what the hell? What's going on?
Yeah.
What's going on? Because, I'll give the exact info as I'm scrolling through this, but I just want to ask you, Tristan. Tristan, what's happening?
I don't know, and I don't like it.
I don't like it either. So, a Doctor Who fan site reported on this. Now, last time I said, hey, the Mirror has been wrong before, but we then noted that as we found out the reason why, in our opinion, the reason why it wasn't leaked by the BBC, because the BBC leaks everything. I'm sure once this rumor is out, I'm sure we'll know the next 3 Doctors in a few minutes. But, BBC leaks every fucking thing. However, they were going to talk about the New Year special in their magazine, the Doctor Who magazine, so I assumed, they wanted to sell those subscriptions, or rather sell those issues and get more people to subscribe, rather than give it all out on the internet. In this case, though, obviously that's, they're not going to say this in a magazine, I would imagine.
Right.
Yeah, so there's reasons why this one's a little bit different, but at the same time, even though, this is a fan website called Outpost Skaro that is actually talking about this. So the reason why I say fan website, not to try to say that they're the worst people or say that they're terrible, it's just to talk about this with a a large grain of salt. So not to just take this as Bible 100%, not to take our biases, whether or not we've liked or disliked Doctor Who, this series, and go, well, clearly the culture war has been won / lost by, so none of that. We're just telling you about what the rumors are and their interpretation of the rumors. So yeah, and also they started off talking about there's breaking news regarding the future of Doctor Who. And by the way, all of this will be linked in the description box down below. This and another article as well. In the off chance that for some reason you can't get into this website, because Tristan was saying how it was hard for him to get into this webpage, but he can get into other websites reporting on this. It's very odd. So anyway, so let's see here. Just want to make sure I get their exact interpretation on this. So apparently Bradley Walsh is also, so he plays Graham. He's leaving as well. So again, this is what they're saying. They're saying that he's leaving as well, which might mean that Towson Cole would leave as well, who plays Ryan, and Mandeep Gill, who plays I can't remember her name off the top of my head for some odd reason. Even though I love her character, they don't know what's going on with her. They're only assuming that Towson... Yeah, Yaz, thank you so much. They're assuming that Towson Cole will leave because Bradley Walsh is, his granddad. So, but moving on to quote-unquote granddad. But still, getting to the whole issue with Chibnall and with Jodie Whittaker, apparently Chibnall feels as if it's that the show is not quote-unquote sustainable at a full series every year. And I'll give you my take on that a little bit later. But talked about, by the way, apparently we're not only going to get a shortened season in 2019. So we're getting 6 episodes, not 10 or 12. Apparently, we're also going to be getting a Christmas special again, which really dumb if we do. Like, I'm not saying we should never get a Christmas special again. I'm just saying that if you guys changed it, keep it that way for at least 2 to 3 years so it doesn't seem like you guys just couldn't come up with something. Like, I'm not even saying that that's what happened. I'm just saying that you shouldn't sit back and do this, and then, because the perception is that you couldn't come up with something sooner. Anyway, so apparently he will be leaving, and apparently Whittaker will be leaving with him, as is, because she likes working with Chibnall, like many people like working with their showrunner, or in the case of, let's say, other movies, when you have a movie with a director that an actor really likes, if the director leaves, that actor might leave as well. That happened with Sam Raimi not being happy with the Spider-Man franchise, wanting to leave before having a Spider-Man 4, and then Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst followed after. So that has happened in movies as well. That could be happening here as well. Again, I keep on saying could, because the BBC, while they would probably not confirm this for obvious reasons, we haven't gotten any other sources other than this fan site. Now, I'm not saying they can't have an in, but still, I just want to really push that home and really kind of keep that out there. Like, we have gotten no other rumblings other than the fan site. So,
right.
Yeah. So apparently they were going to get a six episode series, unless the BBC says that they are going to potentially do a contract issue and then have to force Chibnall to produce a full 10 episodes. And apparently they're even saying, they're saying if new showrunners can't be found by early 2019, Chibnall may have to produce a full 10 episodes for season 12, or series 12, which will be split between 2019 and 2020 until the new team can get traction on their own take. Also, I don't know if this means that Whittaker would then be staying on for that, because again, all of this is just completely up in the air. I want to say, so this part is a little odd, because they don't, I'm not saying that they have to say what source they're getting this from, because of course that would be terrible. That person would lose their job. You'd never get a source from them again because they'd be fired from the company, right? But they did say that, as for the 13th Doctor, Jodie Whittaker, it seems likely that she'll leave the role along with Chibnall, as a series a year will be too much for the young mum, so it's likely to hand over the keys to the TARDIS, as is tradition, next Christmas. But that was, of course, listed before the whole, if they make him do a full 10 episodes for Series 12 split between 2019 and 2020. Of course, we don't know what that would mean for Whittaker either. But again, though, there were no quotes from anyone. There is an article that will be listed down below that does have a specific website, and other websites as well, reaching out to Jodie Whittaker's publicist, and then they directed them to the Doctor Who's official publicity team. So, you could say that's deflection, or you could just say, hey, they're the dudes running the show, why are you asking us about contract disputes? Like, we're not allowed to talk about that stuff, go talk to the BBC. Or it could be a power play, where it's just like, oh, we're not going to say anything. If you have any problems, maybe go talk to the BBC. Unsure which way you want to take it, right? Because it can be taken in many different ways. So, but yeah, so I do think it's interesting that they noted that Chibnall had mentioned, which, again, it says it is to be believed. So it's not even like this is a direct quote from him, but it's believed he feels the workload for a full series a year is unsustainable, like I mentioned earlier. But that's a really interesting one. Before I go on about this, I would love to hear what you think, Tristan. Tristan, how do you feel about all of this? Do you think it's... Obviously, yes, we're taking it with a grain of salt, but do you think it's more so bullshit than anything, or do you think maybe there might be certain grains of truth? Because again, we're not sitting here like this is obviously the truth and Doctor Who has been terrible, because you and I disagree with some people, because we actually do like what Doctor Who's doing. It does feel like it's refreshing and different, and depending on where you look for ratings, it also shows that people are tuning in more now than they were during the end of Capaldi's run, even though I actually liked the end of Capaldi's run. But what do you think, Tristan?
Yeah, I think it's... I don't know, I guess a little half and half. I could believe it, but at the same time, I would wait until we actually get an official statement.
Yes, but why would you believe it? Like, what what comes off as potentially believable to you? Because I'll give my take in a little bit, but I'm actually curious because this is the first time you're hearing about this. Because you heard rumblings of this from Anthony Toto because people in his Doctor Who Facebook group were talking about this. But I don't think you knew the full story until like right before the podcast.
Yeah. I mean, I could believe having trouble, between producers and writers, and
it happened with Eccleston.
Same reaction if if a writer leaves or the head writer leaves, then some of the actors that were brought on with him might also leave. It just kind of snowballs. I just hope that's not true because I would like to at least see them get. They would still be doing another season, but like you said before, it might even be shortened. I would at least want to see them in another season. But for me, if it's if what Chibnall wants to do, he's like, I just want to do this one and move on. Same thing with Whittaker and anybody else that came on. If they're like, no, we want to do this one run and then done and move on to other things, then that's fine. I'll respect that decision. But if it's due to outside forces, then I would be disappointed. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So So I see what you're coming from. You have no problem if they came into it with that perspective, but if they came into it thinking they were going to be doing this for years and then something happened that made them want to leave, that's frustrating.
Right.
That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. I have a few different things to say about this. So, looking specifically at the whole series a year being unsustainable thing, most other BBC shows do like either 3 episodes or 6 episodes or maybe up to 10 episodes. They don't do 12 to 13 like Doctor Who has been doing for years. Now, I'm not saying every single BBC show. Of course, there's other shows, either BBC or just other shows in general over there that are long-running, like soap opera type shows, right? So it's not like I'm saying that only, if I'm going to watch shows over across the pond, that every single one is going to be 3 episodes or 6 episodes or 10 episodes. But a fair amount of them are, and I think that those are really good self-contained stories. Now, yes, one could argue that the BBC couldn't sell more, like they want to sell more, just anything, just more TV shows, more episodes separately to different places across the world, to different networks across the world. Because even though in the BBC doesn't have ads, we do in the US. So if you watch the episodes on BBC America, you get ads on those. So I do wonder if maybe BBC is nervous about that. They're thinking about other audiences, not just their own over there, because of course Doctor Who has it's been global for a very long time, but it definitely is global right now as well. So I don't think it's waned in popularity as some people might say that it has. But here's the thing though, Tristan. You and I, we don't just do Keikaku Korner here, we also do Doctor Who Wednesdays, where we do different reviews on Doctor Who. It's in the name, guys. So, when we do that, we sometimes look up the writers and how many episodes have the head writer written that season and stuff like that. So, as of this recording, we are at 7 episodes. Chibnall has written, even though some of them are co-written, but Chibnall has written 6, am I correct?
I believe that was. I was looking at the.
Yeah, because
I believe he's written 6.
Yes, and again, some of those
including co-writing.
Including what?
Including co-writing.
Yeah, including co-writing, and that does matter a lot because when it comes to being a co-writer, in some cases it's just fixing a few things here and there for continuity. In other cases, like in the case of Stephen Moffat and Neil Gaiman, when it came to The Doctor's Wife, Neil Gaiman, an amazing writer, has written stuff before, but hasn't really written for television, so apparently Moffat was like, oh yeah, I came in and I did a lot of work with that one. So, he didn't say it with that tone, but he still said that he did work on that extensively with Gaiman after he was done with it. So, this could mean that, yes, for Chibnall, the way he writes or the way he wants to write, it could potentially be unsustainable. If that is to be true, that he does believe that or that he has said that, then yes, it is true. It is, because Tristan, it's unsustainable when someone wants to write that much for a show like Doctor Who when in the past they've only written 1 episode here and there, maybe a 2-parter. Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, Moffat has only written at most, maybe 4 episodes a season, I'm pretty sure. maybe you could say more if you count the seasons where they had a gap in airing, where like one aired in one half of the year, the other one aired in the other half of the year. Like I believe that was series 6 that started doing that for a bit. In no way am I saying that that Moffat didn't write more than 4 episodes at that point. But Moffat usually writes the first episode, maybe if it's a 2-parter, he writes it as a 2-parter. Then he writes the last episode or 2, depending on if that's a 2-parter. Maybe one in the middle, perhaps. And then, putting all those aside, the Christmas special. Because, of course, head writer. So, I'm saying that if you have Chibnall, out of 10 episodes, he's done 6. And he's doing the one that's coming up as well, isn't he? I believe you mentioned that to me.
Yeah, I believe he's doing the next.
That's...
or the one after.
Right. So even if that's, let's say, 8 or even 9, he would be doing 7 out of 9 or 7 out of 8. That's a lot. Like, that's a lot for one person to do. I know he's written Broadchurch, and I know, I'm sure he's written... I know he's written other stuff as well, obviously. But that's way too much. I mean, tell me if you agree, Tristan. That's way too much. Like, if someone actually said, it seems like this is pretty hard to do. Yeah, it is. That's not what people do for Doctor Who. You get other writers and you rely on them. Not that you take a break because you're the showrunner, for frig's sake. But you rely on them to do what they need to do. And you step back a little bit. So, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong there. That's kind of what we've seen. And I think it's worked out rather well for Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the one thing that I disagreed with completely, and granted, if we get confirmation from Jodie herself, then that's fine. Because Jodie can, as a woman, she can do as a person, like, it's not just being a woman, as a person, she can do whatever she wants to and say whatever reason she wants to if she ends up leaving the show earlier than, 4 years. Something that's a little abnormal, like 2 years, right? So, if she says, hey, I wanted to see my kid more. All right, cool. That's her, right? Who cares?
Right.
I mean, I know I wanted to see more of Jodie Whittaker, so of course I care, you care. But there's nothing wrong with her regenerating into another female doctor. There's no reason why we have to keep it at one. We've had a bunch of dudes play a bunch of different doctors or a bunch of different interpretations of the older doctors. There's no reason why Jodie can't regenerate into another woman and we can't just keep going.
Right.
And she could even be a woman that's a bit more like Capaldi, even. She doesn't have to be like Whittaker in any way.
Yeah.
So you don't have to just have a female doctor be all happy and cheery like a Tennant. You can have a female doctor with attack eyebrows. You can. So who should be the next doctor? Dame Judi Dench. That's who should be the next doctor.
Okay.
It's funny, I was half joking, but now I kind of want it. Meryl Streep should be the next doctor. Just really intense actresses. Like, really intense. Anyway, all jokes aside, though, Tristan, the reason why I'm saying, hey, until we get something from her, I feel weird about this, because it's just very odd for a fan website, which, again, they don't need to talk about their source, but it seems like that we're all wondering where is this coming from. And then out of nowhere, it's just like, as for the 13th Doctor, Jodie Whittaker, it seems likely that she'll leave the role along with Chibnall, as a series a year will be too much for the young mum, so is likely to hand over the keys to the TARDIS, as is tradition, next Christmas. It's only weird to me because, nobody says that about dudes. And by the way, if they did, that's totally fine. Because you could say, for a new dad being away from their kid, I mean, that's why people talk about paternity leave in the U.S. and how we should have more of that going around, instead of it just being like, oh yeah, whatever, for the moms, okay, and then the dads, who cares, right? So, in that regard, if you're going to come at me with that, I'm talking about the fans right now, if you're going to be like, well, guys should, I agree, right? But nobody talks about guys like that. Everyone's just like, from what I see, and this is anecdotal, but and I know, Tristan, you agree with me here as well, we don't ever hear the phrase from a media outlet, that guy probably is going to want to leave his role to spend more time with his kid.
Yeah.
But when it comes to a mom, all of a sudden, it's just like you hear news outlets, a bunch of different ones, like, is she going to want to spend some more time with her kid? Like, yes, she's a mom, she's going to want to, but she's also working. Like, she's a working person. So, she has a job to do. So until I hear something from Jodie Whittaker, I just feel like that's not a load of bullshit necessarily, but it just comes off as like, again, until we hear something official, it just comes off as like a wee bit sexist, a wee bit.
Yeah, no, it is.
Okay, cool. So it's not just direct all of your fan ire. I'm kidding. Direct it in the comment section down below. But no, but still though, all jokes aside, I'm just saying that I think that either don't say shit like that, or say that about men too, because men could totally be feeling the same way, right? So exactly. So that's the thing. Now again, them saying, "Oh, she would probably leave," next Christmas. Well, yeah, that's obvious. I'm not disputing that fact, nor am I disputing the fact that showrunners usually leave with their respective doctors. I mean, we had, even though, yes, of course, Eccleston left early because of some production trouble there, we did have Tennant leave with Russell T Davies. Yeah. They left at the same time. Usually that's the case. But you know what I have to say, though? If Whittaker wants to keep on working, why not with a new showrunner? That would also be interesting as well, seeing how a different showrunner could perhaps write her differently. I don't know how I would end up seeing it, because again, I don't know who the frick this showrunner is yet, but maybe some people who are saying, hey, we're disliking this run of Doctor Who, you keep Whittaker around, but if Chibnall wants to leave, alright.
Right.
Maybe. I mean, how would you feel about that, Tristan?
I mean, I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, no. At the very least, I just want 3 series of Whittaker, because BBC was talking about a 5-year plan. Even if they don't go through with that with Whittaker, that's fine. They can still keep the blueprints around, if they want to. I mean, Doctor Who stories, even though it might seem like they, that story wasn't used, where is it going to go? As long as they have the script lying around, they can just dust it off and pull it out whenever they need to, if, depending on how good the script is and what needs to be changed. So, if they have this blueprints, this plan out for 5 years, and Whittaker and Chibnall leave, I don't think this is the end of Doctor Who.
Yeah. No.
Because you have some people giving their hot takes, and we're like, well, we told you, Doctor Who's over, and it's like, the ratings are actually doing better than Capaldi. No, but it's SJW ratings, so it doesn't count. All right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, at the end of the day,
you see that escape pod? I'm going to need you to step inside it.
It's working. It's fully working. But we need you to step inside it. It's fully working. I checked it myself, and I know a thing or two about space pods. I don't know jack shit about space pods. I'm really hoping it's working. Anyway, no, but seriously though, stuff like this is gonna come out no matter what. But it is interesting. Yeah. I mean, maybe we just, because we didn't have Keikaku Korner back a few years back, maybe we just weren't following the news that well. But it does seem like a lot of this news is coming up now. It's interesting.
Yeah.
It just seems like it's tying into a narrative of, oh, nobody likes this, man. And it's just like, well, we like it. Are we? Oh, God, we're nobodies. Where are our heartless, Tristan? Well, apparently we're nobodies. Yeah, because this is the thing. Like, there are a bunch of people who are liking what Doctor Who is doing right now, or at the very least, they're liking Whittaker, even if they don't like the plots.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like this isn't the end of Doctor Who. However, we were wrong with our last story, so maybe we're wrong now. But no, I don't think this is the end of Doctor Who. I do think though that if Whittaker leaves, I do think it would be a mistake. I mean, she can leave for any reason that she wants to, but I do think that it would be a mistake. Because I think she's doing a lot of good, and I think she is doing well in the role as well.
Right.
So,
yeah, me too.
Yeah, so, it would suck if she left. But again, I still believe, and tell me if you agree, Tristan, that even if she leaves, why not just regenerate into another woman? Like, what's the big deal? Now that we know that the Doctor can regenerate into a woman, it's not a big deal if she does it again, and that's okay. Right. Because the first time, of course, I understand why it's a big deal, obviously. But after that, it's just like, yeah, she regenerated into a woman. Okay. Right. Every time I want to say transformed, like we're talking about Dragon Ball Z. It's like, no, she didn't. Right. This isn't her second form. This is her 14th. Yeah, exactly. No, this isn't her, her final form. But still, though, you see where I'm going with this, though, Tristan. Like, worst case scenario, and she has to leave. All right, then we find somebody new. It doesn't mean that, it's not like, well, I guess the experiment failed. We have to go back to 13 more men. It's like, what? No. Like,
Right, yeah.
No. But anyway, so Tristan, any parting words before we move on? But I would love to hear what you guys have to say down below. Now, I feel like you guys already came into this, some of you, not all of you, definitely not all of you, but some of you already came into this with perceived certain ideas on the topic, but either way, I still want to hear what you guys have to say. I'll be down below talking to you guys. Let's just keep it civil, and not Civil War civil. Civil. Right, Tristan? Civil. No war. Not today. No Zygons. Nothing like that. But I really would love to hear what you guys have to say. It's just that, again, like, I look at the numbers and I look at some of the fan outrage, and it just confuses me. Because I've been a fan for a while, Tristan's been a fan for a while, so we're just not getting it,
Yeah.
So if it sounds like we're antagonistic, that's kind of why, because we just really, it's hard for us to wrap our minds around, other than people saying, hey, I don't like the plot. It's like, oh, okay, cool. But like anything other than that, where it's like, well, Doctor Who should just be canceled. I'm like, what? Like, that's odd. But either way, though, we'd love to hear what you guys have to say down below.